talk about nurses and how they just naturally will feel worse because people are like trying to project that, or like people just naturally want to get rid of that energy. Are there does the is when somebody who's a desperate, who's like in dire straits, like somebody who's sick in a hospital, is there a natural instinct, an energetic instinct to try to give people that energy and get it away from you, or
Or
is it?
take from the nurses. Take vitality from the nurses.
Oh, got you. Okay. So when people take this vitality, it seems like it's unconscious for a lot of people. So when somebody is consciously trying to take energy from somebody, maybe what are some of the tactics? And also, does it feel differently than just somebody doing it by accident? Does it feel differently when somebody's purposefully taking your energy, like in psychic vampirism, or does it feel similar to how a normal person would do it by accident?
It depends on the skill of the person doing it. So if they're just starting out, it's probably pretty crude. Like as if it feels like a knife or something, or some obvious type of thing, like you're like, somebody's trying to do something. If they're more skilled, it could feel like nothing at all, because they'll use the equivalent of energetic anestheticism. Basically they'll put anesthesia and take what they need, and then that's that. So it depends on the skill of who's doing the psychic vampirism, and how much energy skill they actually have. Now that depends. Again, if we play the odds, right? Most people are unskilled. Or they have relatively low skills. So you'll know. You might not know where exactly it's coming from. But something is up again.
That makes a lot of sense. So is there a natural, so somebody that doesn't do a spiritual practice at all, is there a natural energy cap about how much energy you have in a lifetime? And is there, as far as, spiritual practice and things, is there a way to build up that energy? Is there a cap at all? And when somebody reaches that cap, how does it feel when you start to reach that cap, if there is a cap on energy in your life? For the average person, is there a cap?
Well, I mean, we do age, so there is that kind of cap going on. It does get you do lose energy and vitality as you get older, but really you could build that back. I mean, you can see photos of 80-year-olds who are lifting weights that are awesome, totally ripped. And if you're doing qigong or other energy practices on a real daily basis, you can overcome a lot of that. And now, probably different people have different levels of energy, and it doesn't matter where you're at. You can build up to much better. Now, granted, in some cases, because I value being more honest about spirituality. If you're really sick, can you turn the clock back? Yes, but can you go all the way back if there's all kinds of scar tissue, in the inside of your body? Well, that's going to take a lot more work. It might go a lot slower. It might get better and better and better, and then you're always still can have the other side of this as you get older. You're one foot in the grave, right? So it is possible. There's no real limit. And then once you get into being able to channel spiritual energies, not just physical chi or physical energy, there's no real limit to that if you can manifest it here. There is a limit, a conceptual limit, probably, but it has to do with probably what we weren't going to talk about, but I'll raise the issue of consensual levels of reality, or what the social network of people around you will physically accept for weirdness. Mm-hmm. And then how much can you actually physically overcome their resistance to spiritual energies by force, or break them in the process of what you're doing to break their resistance. So there's all kinds of, how much are they working against you or with you? That kind of is the limit. And then, of course, how much will do you have? Not necessarily will, but, everyone has different abilities, levels, but how much can they overpower some of the resistance? We typically call that will in the magical setting.
That makes a lot of sense. It's so when you are drained of energy, we all kind of know about depression and things like that. So when you're low on energy, is it just that it affects the mind, and also you feel more tired of things like that, are there certain thoughts that are brought up when your energy is drained to a certain amount? Is it just depression, or is there some kind of effect that you can see within?
It really depends on the person, right? So depression is the most natural one, but some people have anxiety when they're really drained. Anytime a person's out of balance, by balance I mean their energy system's depleted. It could just be that they eat more. It could be they eat less, right? They might get irritable. So it's not just depression. It can be kind of any number of those things could happen. They could get sick. That often happens when you get energy deprived, which, now with COVID and everything, that's kind of important to keep in mind. So it's not just depression. It can be, it kind of manifests and depends on which types of energy is depleted in the person. If someone is doing mental work all the time, they might have a mental breakdown, but physically be perfectly okay. But somebody who's depleted physically might just get sick or something like that. So it really depends on kind of where the depletion's going and what needs to be replenished and how the individual is doing and what they need to do right then and there to kind of get back in the game, as it were.
That makes sense. It feels like all of what you said really lines up to what the experiences that I've had as well. So one thing that I want to talk about, which might seem like a different topic to people watching, but we're talking. I remember listening to one of your podcasts about soul fragmentation. So in regards to energy, are we talking about spirit, soul, or a combination of maybe the ego, the mind, and the spirit? So like the basic layout. There's a lot of different terms for all these things, but as far as the soul fragmentation, what are we drawing upon, and how are we fragmented? Basically upon death, where does that energy go, or where is that energy from originally as well?
So I haven't died yet, so everything is conjecture. But I deal with dead spirits a whole lot. So we have, I think, voodoo, of which I'm initiated priest, and Egyptian stuff they both have similar, and it comes across in some Taoist literature too, and Eastern stuff. They have similar notions of the soul. And we could talk about that. I mean, the first notion is that you have a physical body, you have physical energy, and that's what it is, physical energy. But then you could say you have heart energy. Some people will put that, or some people will put that with the physical energy. But then you have mental energy, which is a little bit more ideas and refinement in that. So you have this whole spectrum: body, emotional, mental. And then that is all part of the individual that on death kind of has issues if they haven't done the cultivation work to survive death. But then you have this notion in ceremonial magic, in all these religions, that you have a spark. You have a spark, divine spark, that cannot die, that kind of animates the rest of it. So when you die, what really happens is that all fragments and goes to different places. Your earth body energy, well, what does that do? It goes in the grave, right? Normally, it would go into another plant. Now it sits in the concrete box, right?
So that's actually something that I was curious about. So cremation versus burying. When you cremate somebody, does the energy go back into the earth, or what is it?
Yeah, it goes. It doesn't go back into the earth the same way, but it's going back to the atmosphere. The energy is coming back here. The basic nutrients of everything is going back into the soil, kind of like the physical energy basically cascades back to the world in one form or another. Like even heat is physical energy. So when you get cremated, all that kind of gets released. And then the emotional and intelligence components of it can survive death. That's sort of like the shell. And depending on which system you work with, that's usually what you're pulling forward when you do necromancy. You're pulling that shell across, and you're trying to rebuild it. That isn't necessarily the soul of the person, unless they're sort of what I would call elevated or sainted dead. In which case, if you're dealing with a magician or something like that, they may still have their personality connected to their soul, even after death, because they've cultivated the connection to the divine. They've kind of, in the Kirchhoff sort of idea of things, cultivated a soul. and that soul carries them through death, and then they, do whatever they're going to do as a kind of exalted dead, or a proto-god form, or whatever you want to call it at that point.
Yeah, that definitely aligns. I first heard about soul fragmentation from your podcast years back, and it made a lot of sense to me. So kind of what I built on from what I heard in the podcast, it sounds exactly like kind of what I built up as far as my own knowledge afterwards. So that makes total sense, and I'm really glad that you talked about this.